An eyeball covered by a red no sign spins into view. White text on a black background reads, Mason in the dark. A blind man's journey through the wacky world of reading, writing, and other silly bollocks. Brought to you from beyond the black screen. Cut to black. Hello everyone. Mason here. How you doing?
Happy New Year, my lovelies. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday season. I did, although I am glad it's over. The swarming hordes of desperate shoppers have finally disappeared and I can enjoy going outside again. Yes, I am a miserable bastard, and no, I don't hate Christmas, I just hate everything surrounding it. Mainly the music. It's just forced fun, innit? I don't need that, I can have a good time without a worldwide mandate, thanks very much. Anyway, my point is, I hope you had a good time. 2023 was a great year for me. I had fun, I worked hard, I learnt some valuable lessons, and I achieved things that I'd only ever dreamed of. But 2024 has arrived, so what are my plans for this year? Well, firstly, I'll be playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 because I bought that just after Christmas, and I'm currently no-lifing it. Seriously, the learning curve for that game, there's no easing you in. The game's just like, you understand D&D, right? It works just like that. And I'm like, no, I've never played D&D before, I just wanted this hyped up game. It's alright though, we stuck with it and now we're having a really good time. I actually think playing it is going to be very useful from an authorial standpoint, especially when it comes to an upcoming project that I will be discussing later this video. Ugh, that was seamless, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, writing plans. Let's get to it. First things first, let's talk about the Bleeding Ground. I wrote Volume 1 back in October 2021, and since then I've released 10 volumes, which I'm pretty bloody proud of, but there is an issue that's been bugging me and I'd like to address it. As I've mentioned in the past, Volume 1 was never meant to be anything more than a spooky, standalone short story with an ominous ending. I certainly didn't expect it to evolve into my main project. Up until about Volume 6 or 7, I was writing the series step by step as I went. When people got excited and asked me, what's next, my answer was, I don't know, I guess we'll find out together. Now, that's fine. I actually think there's a certain romance to a story where the author and the audience are on a level playing field, taking that journey together. However, that's just not the case anymore. The thing is, I'm just not the sort of author who can pump out pieces on a rapid-fire basis. Not only does it take a while for ideas to fully crystallise, but due to working with a screen reader, it's much easier for me to write and edit as I go because the larger a document becomes, the harder it is to navigate. For example, if a document is over 3,000 words and I try to scroll through it too fast, it will crash my talkback, guaranteed, and then I've got to go through the process of resetting it, which is at least 3 or 4 steps, and then it might crash again before I get to the required line. I do tend to separate larger pieces into a couple of different documents, and then when I'm ready, I copy and paste it all into a master document. There's also the incredibly annoying fact that TalkBack doesn't always read things correctly. For example, live will be live, tear will be tear, so on and so forth. Think of any homophone, TalkBack will read it wrong depending on which context you're looking for. My point is, getting a piece to the point where I'm ready to record it is a long, complicated process in which I have to jump over many hurdles, and then recording is also that. I have to navigate through my work using TalkBack, which as I just established is a massive pain in the arse, memorise it line by line and then go back and forth between the document and my recording app. It can be really challenging, especially when you factor in battling against environmental noise. I love what I do, but it can be very difficult, and to be honest, blindness doesn't make it any easier. All of the things that I just discussed have meant that The Bleeding Ground, as a serialised audiobook, has been released on a sporadic basis, and there's a big problem there. I know there are people who genuinely enjoy the series, but can't remember what happened in the early volumes. For example, Volumes 9 and 10 tie in quite heavily to Volume 4, but at this point, Enemies of the Crown was released a long time ago. I can't expect people to remember the details of something they listened to once over a year ago. Realistically, for the most part, that ain't gonna happen. That was fine in the early days when I was still establishing everything, but the last few volumes have pushed us into new territory, and now I think it's much more important for the through lines to be clear in your mind. I've been doing a lot of thinking on this subject, and I've decided that the old way of doing things just isn't working for me anymore, which is why, and I'm pretty excited to announce this, I'm working on the Season 1 finale. The current plan is that it will be a two-parter, the events of which will tie up some loose ends, conclude at least one major arc, establish a new status quo, and serve as a decent jumping-off point. After that, the Bleeding Ground will be on hiatus for a while as I write Season 2. However, I won't be publishing any of Season 2 until the whole thing is finished so that I can release the volumes a lot closer together. Although I might do it with a mid-season finale so that I can be writing Season 2B whilst 2A is being published. I'm not sure about that yet. When I first started writing, I was a pantser through and through, but things have changed. I've got over 2 years of experience under my belt. I've had a lot of time to sit and think about the Bleeding Ground. At this point, I'm much more of a plantser. I know some of the beats I want to hit in future, and I've just got to figure out how to get there. Whilst the hiatus will mean that there's probably going to be a fairly large gap between the Season 1 finale and the debut of Season 2, one of the major lessons I learnt last year was that I need to not put so much pressure on myself because, ultimately, that leads to a lower work rate. Stress is not conducive to creativity. I know, that's a super hot take. Nobody could have come up with that on their own. At the end of the day, I don't want to seem like I'm dawdling, but at the same time, this series matters to me and I don't want to rush ahead due to a desire to get things out as quickly as possible so people don't forget what's happening and regret it later. I need that time and space to plan my course of action so that I can write the best possible version of Season 2. That way, I can know exactly what I'm doing before I even start. I can go into Season 2 with a clear understanding of the arcs that I'm crafting, and even if the finer details aren't fully mapped out, I'll be aware of the broad strokes and the milestones that I need to strive towards. If I don't do it that way, I'm afraid I'll reach a point where I'm burned out with no idea what to do next, and I'm not about to let that happen. So, yeah, that's the current plan. However, whilst TBG is on hiatus and I'm setting up Season 2, I will be working on something else. As I'm sure a lot of you know, last year my short story Dishonored in Death was published in Jeremy Fee's Half Human Heroes, a fantasy anthology. And if you enjoyed that story, oh, do I have some good news for you. Listen, I never expected to end up enjoying writing full-on fantasy, but I had the best time writing Dishonored in Death, and I fell in love with the setting, which is why, right now, I'm working on Tales of the Limitless City, a collection of short stories that will all take place within the titular limitless city of Dagrok. To be honest, I'm loving it. I really am. There's this sense of unbridled freedom to the world building. I can explore my own lore and mythology. No idea is too big, too stupid, too crazy. I can just let my imagination run wild, and that is so much fun. At this point, I'm not entirely sure how many stories there will be, but obviously, as the only piece of my writing not currently available in audio format, Dishonored in Death will be included. Back in October, I wrote The Necroid, which definitely has a vibe and contains some descriptions I am very proud of. And I'm also working on an as of yet untitled third piece. I'm sure there'll be more than that, but as of this moment, that's where I'm at. I mentioned earlier that I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, and in my opinion, that's a perfect companion piece, because my mental state, and therefore the tone of my writing, is quite heavily influenced by whatever media I'm consuming at the time. For example, both Peaky Blinders and Red Dead Redemption 2 focused on outlaws or gang members, which was very useful in terms of sparking ideas for The Bleeding Ground. Immersing myself in the world of BG3, and I guess the D&D universe in general, is a perfect way to program my mind and activate epic fantasy mode. It gets me thinking about what my world would be like in comparison, what Dagrock might be like to wander around in, who or what you might encounter, what little quirks would make it feel more tangible. It's just a great way to gain inspiration for my own world building. Right now, I'm not going to commit to any concrete plans in terms of publication because, as I said before, I'm trying not to put myself under so much pressure, and I really don't want to suck the fun out of this project by turning it into a chore. However, I will update you on the progress, and I'm hoping that it will be done by my birthday in November. If everything can be ready before then, that'll be a bonus, but if not, that's fine too. Look at my personal growth! Oh, am I kidding? I'll almost certainly get stressed about this at some point. Alright, that's that then. Those are my plans / goals for my writing in 2024, and I sincerely hope you're as pumped as I am, because honestly, I reckon this year's gonna be bloody mint, mate. Have you enjoyed this video? If so, there's lots of relevant buttons to help give this channel a boost, and if you don't press at least one of them, it means you hate blind people. You don't want that, do you? If you've got thoughts to share or you fancy a chat, then you know where the comment section is, and all the links to my social media can be found in the description. Thanks ever so much for spending time with me today, guys. Until next time, take care. For now, I'm off, and you should have a good one.